mujik. "Silence!" replied Michael, with his finger on his lips. At this moment a detachment debouched from the principal square into the street which Michael Strogoff and his companion had just been following. At the head of the detachment, composed of 20 horsemen, was an officer dressed in a very simple uniform. Although he glanced rapidly from one side to the other he could not have seen Michael Strogoff, owing to his precipitous retreat. The detachment went at full trot into the narrow street. Neither the officer nor his escort concerned themselves about the inhabitants. Several unlucky ones had scarcely time to make way for their passage. There were a few half stifled cries, to which thrusts of the lance gave an instant reply, and the street was immediately cleared. When the escort had disappeared, "Who is that officer?" asked Michael Strogoff. And while putting the question, his face was pale as that of a corpse. "It is Ivan Ogareff," replied the Siberian, in a deep voice which breathed hatred. "He!" cried Michael Strogoff, from whom the word escaped with a fury he could not conquer. He had just recognized in this officer the traveler who had struck him at the posting house of Ichim, and although he had only caught a glimpse of him, it burst upon his mind at the same time that this traveler was the old Zingari whose words he had overheard in the marketplace of Nijni Novgorod. Michael Strogoff was not mistaken. The two men were one and the same. It was under the garb of a Zingari, mingling with the band of Sangarre, that Ivan Ogareff had been able to leave the town of Nijni Novgorod, where he had gone to seek his confidants. Sangarre and her Zingari, well paid spies, were absolutely devoted to him. It was he who, during the night, on the fair ground had uttered that singular sentence, which Michael Strogoff could not understand. It was he who was voyaging on board the Caucasus, with the whole of the Bohemian band. It was he who by this other route, from Kazan to Ichim, across the Urals, had reached Omsk, where now he held supreme authority. Ivan Ogareff had been barely 3 days at Omsk, and had it not been for their fatal meeting at Ichim, and for the event which had detained him 3 days on the banks of the Irtych, Michael Strogoff would have evidently beaten him on the way to Irkutsk. And who knows how many misfortunes would have been avoided in the future? In any case, and now more than ever, Michael Strogoff must avoid Ivan Ogareff, and contrive not to be seen. When the moment of encountering him face to face should arrive, he knew how to meet it, even should the traitor be master of the whole of Siberia. The mujik and Michael resumed their way and arrived at the posting house. To leave Omsk by one of the breaches would not be difficult after nightfall. As for purchasing a carriage to replace the tarantass, that was impossible. There were none to be let or sold. But what want had Michael Strogoff now for a carriage? Was he not alone, alas? A horse would suffice him, and very fortunately a horse could be had. It was an animal of strength and mettle, and Michael Strogoff, accomplished horseman that he was, could make good use of it. It was 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Michael Strogoff, compelled to wait till nightfall, in order to pass the fortifications, but not desiring to show himself, remained in the posting house, and there partook of food. There was a great crowd in the public room. They were talking of the expected arrival of a corps of Muscovite troops, not at Omsk but at Tomsk, a corps intended to recapture that town from the Tartars of Feofar Khan. Michael Strogoff lent an attentive ear, but took no part in the conversation. Suddenly a cry made him tremble, a cry which penetrated to the depths of his soul, and these 2 words rushed into his ear: "My son!" His mother, the old woman Marfa, was before him. Trembling, she smiled upon him. She stretched forth her arms to him. Michael Strogoff arose. He was about to throw himself. The thought of duty, the serious danger for his mother and himself in this unfortunate meeting, suddenly stopped him. And such was his command over himself that not a muscle of his face moved. There were 20 people in the public room. Among them were, perhaps, spies, and was it not known in the town that the son of Marfa Strogoff belonged to the corps of the couriers of the Czar? Michael Strogoff did not move. "Michael!" cried his mother. "Who are you, my good lady?" Michael Strogoff stammered, unable to speak in his usual firm tone. "Who am I, thou askest? Dost thou no longer know thy mother?" "You are mistaken," coldly replied Michael Strogoff. "A resemblance deceives you." The old Marfa went up to him, and looking straight into his eyes said, "Thou art not the son of Peter and Marfa Strogoff?" Michael Strogoff would have given his life to have locked his mother in his arms, but if he yielded it was all over with him, with her, with his mission, with his oath. Completely master of himself, he closed his eyes, in order not to see the inexpressible anguish which agitated the revered countenance of his mother. He drew back his hands, in order not to touch those trembling hands which sought him. "I do not know in truth what it is you say, my good woman," he replied, stepping back. "Michael!" again cried his aged mother. "My name is not Michael. I never was your son. I am Nicholas Korpanoff, a merchant at Irkutsk." And suddenly he left the public room, whilst for the last time the words re-echoed, "My son! My son!" Michael Strogoff by a desperate effort had gone. He did not see his old mother, who had fallen back almost inanimate upon a bench. But when the postmaster hastened to assist her, the aged woman raised herself. Suddenly a thought occurred to her. She denied by her son? It was not possible. As for being herself deceived, and taking another for him, equally impossible. It was certainly her son whom she had just seen, and if he had not recognized her, it was because he would not, it was because he ought not, it was because he had some cogent reasons for acting thus. And then, her mother's feelings arising within her, she had only one thought: "Can I, unwittingly, have ruined him?" "I am mad," she said to her interrogators. "My eyes have deceived me. This young man is not my child. He had not his voice. Let us think no more of it. If we do, I shall end by finding him everywhere." Less than 10 minutes afterwards a Tartar officer appeared in the posting house. "Marfa Strogoff?" he asked. "It is I," replied the old woman, in a tone so calm, and with a face so tranquil, that those who had witnessed the meeting with her son would not have known her. "Come," said the officer. Marfa Strogoff with firm step followed the Tartar. Some moments afterwards she found herself in the chief square in the presence of Ivan Ogareff, to whom all the details of this scene had been immediately reported. Ogareff, suspecting the truth, interrogated the old Siberian woman. "Thy name?" he asked in a rough voice. "Marfa Strogoff." "Thou hast a son?" "Yes." "He is a courier of the Czar?" "Yes." "Where is he?" "At Moscow." "Thou hast no news of him?" "No news." "Since how long?" "Since 2 months." "Who then was that young man whom thou didst call thy son a few moments ago at the posting house?" "A young Siberian whom I took for him," replied Marfa Strogoff. "This is the 10th man in whom I have thought I recognized my son since the town has been so full of strangers. I think I see him everywhere." "So this young man was not Michael Strogoff?" "It was not Michael Strogoff." "Dost thou know, old woman, that I can torture thee till thou avowest the truth?" "I have spoken the truth, and torture will not cause me to alter my words in any way." "This Siberian was not Michael Strogoff?" asked a second time Ivan Ogareff. "No, it was not he," replied a second time Marfa Strogoff. "Do you think that for anything in the world I would deny a son whom God has given me?" Ivan Ogareff regarded with an evil eye the old woman who braved him to the face. He did not doubt but that she had recognized her son in this young Siberian. Now if this son had first renounced his mother, and if his mother renounced him in her turn, it could occur only from the most weighty motive. Ogareff had therefore no doubt that the pretended Nicholas Korpanoff was Michael Strogoff, courier of the Czar, seeking concealment under a false name, and charged with some mission which it would have been important for him to know. He therefore at once gave orders for his pursuit. Then, "Let this woman be conducted to Tomsk," he said. While the soldiers brutally dragged her off, he added between his teeth, "When the moment arrives, I shall know how to make her speak, this old sorceress." End of Book 1, Chapter 14.